Okay, looks like this thing is rolling now. Hi, Rick and Ashley, Jay here. I'm going to walk through the spreadsheet calculations because I figured this might be a little bit easier than trying to do an appointment. And I've been having a hard time with work, and I know sometimes evenings are hard for Ashley, and we all have pretty busy schedules. And also, the semester is starting pretty soon. So I'm going to walk you through the spreadsheet here, and let's see how this goes. There we go. All right, so what we did, or what I did here, was I ran through a number of treatments. So basically, there's basically a number of species, right? And you'll see in the manuscript or the draft manuscript the different options, like different scenarios. So we had you see here T. canadensis, no treatment, and we assume that it dies in 5 years. Scroll down, we have canadensis with 1 oil treatment annually. And I've done time horizons for 25 years for all of these. And then we have canadensis 2 oil treatments, and then a soil drench with imidacloprid, which is a systemic, which the tree draws up and gets protection that way. And then we have chinensis, which is the plant that exhibits the tree that exhibits plant host resistance. So those are the 5 scenarios that we ran. In the first case, we have T. canadensis, no treatment. So we expect that it's going to die in like 5 years, but we can change that if we want. So we're assuming right now the costs are purchase price is $30, installation is $30 for a total of $60. And because there are no treatment costs in the following years, that's the only cost involved. And then moving over a little, what I've done is, let's see here, we have the benefits. So, and the way we calculated the benefits was based on iTree. So I'll show you how that looks. So using iTree, which is a USDA tool, Rick's very familiar with it. And Ashley, if you're not, you will become familiar with it, whether it's in your studies or in this project. So on the iTree's website, you're going to go to iTree tools, and we're going to go down to the module or app that I used was iTree MyTree. And so that comes up there. So the actual address that I used was, the address at the, excuse me, at the Arboretum. But I'll just use mine just for example, just as an example. Now, English units, English units are actually American units, because if we go to the other option, metric, which is actually what's used in English in Britain. So we're going to go English units, and then next. All right, so then we can put something there. I'm leaving that blank. Species, we're using Eastern hemlock. They don't have a selection for Eastern and Chinese hemlock. Chinese isn't that popular and common in North America. So for both trees, we're using Eastern hemlock. It's a bit of a weakness to the approach, but that's what we're using because we're going to be running the benefit side using Eastern hemlock for both the Chinese hemlock and the Eastern hemlock. And what this iTree calculator does is it provides a dollar estimation, like an actual dollar value to the environmental services or nature services that the tree provides. So the condition, and assuming like when it's first planted, it's going to be excellent. If it's a tree that's maybe treated oil once a year, it might be good throughout. I think that's the assumption I used. If we know it's a tree in decline, maybe in each year we'll run it again and put different conditions right all the way through to dead. So we're just going to say excellent, and we're just going to pick a diameter. Like we're going to start off in the calculations at like a quarter inch, and we're just growing the tree a little bit each year. But we'll say this is a tree that's a little further along, so we're going to say it's 4 inches in diameter, and we're going to assume full sun exposure. Why not? Next. Oh, what's the red field? Oh yeah, I just thought I slipped. Oh, sorry, full sun, full shade, or full sun. There we go. And next, and then where the nature services or environmental services really becomes important is when it comes to heating and cooling of a home. So we're going to assume, where Lazen Arboretum is, it's a lot of new-ish builds, a lot of suburbs, a lot of growth in New York City. So we're going to say it's a relatively newer home after 1980. Distance, in the calculations, I assumed it was 30 feet away because I'm assuming, an open-grown hemlock can grow quite wide, and we're going to assume that the person who planted this in our model, knew that, and then we're going to put it right up against the house. So we're assuming 30 feet, right in the middle of 20 and 39, and we're going to assume the direction from the tree to the building. So I don't know, we're just going to put south, and then finish, and then we get the calculate. So then we get this. Click calculate, and then that gives us the calculation. So you can see that in carbon dioxide sequestered, when it's monetized, we're looking at 13 cents. Stormwater, like just over $5. And then air pollution removal, really, according to this, it really hasn't been a whole lot. So when we look at the total here, energy usage per year is $13, and I guess that's energy saved. I haven't looked at this in a little while, so that I'm assuming that'd be energy saved. I haven't looked at this in a while though. So then I would do this for every single increment, for every single tree, in the 5 different scenarios. I should say every tree. We only assumed in the scenarios it was just one tree. We weren't considering a forest or a hedge or anything like that. So now, so you can see here, again, we looked at the benefits earlier. Now are the costs, just the one planting. Now we're going to go to benefits now. So here's the assumptions here. Assume that you plant good planting stock, excellent, and as the tree goes into decline, at the end of the 5th year, it's dead. And we're also assuming, maybe these assumptions on growth, as a tree declines in health, the growth increment's going to be less. But we're just assuming 0.25 of an inch per year until it dies. Critical, we assume it doesn't put any girth on, and in the last year it dies. And then we're just assuming heights. Again, this is just based on some calculations that I believe I put in the paper. And sun exposure is full sun, and then the assumption here, built after 1980, 30 feet in the south. And then when you calculate this for each year, you have like 5 cents, 8 cents, 12 cents, 12 cents, 7 cents, 6 cents. And that gets a total of, 50 cents. That was the benefit. Look at the cost of $60 in benefit. You see that it really hasn't, it wasn't a, there was no benefit involved. Also, I use a depreciation value of both 2% and 4%. It's kind of similar sort of notions as appreciation or interest, or consumer price index, like inflation. So we're just assuming 2%, 4%. That's kind of like sort of just a general range. In the literature, articles will sometimes use those just as examples when they look at sensitivity analysis. So now going down to the canadensis, one oil treatment. We assume that there is a purchase price of $30, installation cost of $30. I see something here. Yeah. And then we're assuming, and these numbers can all change based on what ultimately we decide, but we're assuming for a tree truck to come and apply oil, horticultural oil, we're assuming for the entire series, $65 per year over the 25-year period. And then the total costs per year, so the first year planting and treatment and all that's $125, and then all subsequent years is $65. That gets us a total there. And then when we apply a depreciation value of 2% and then also 4%, we get the values of just about $1,400, and then about $950 there. And then, so that, again, that is the cost. Now the benefits, we're assuming that, and again, in that first year, it's going to be excellent condition. But because it's only one oil treatment a year, we're assuming that it'll be pretty good, but not excellent. There might be low levels of adelgid, maybe the spray missed some spots of the undersides of the needles or whatever. So we're assuming it's good throughout. So that's the variable we can plug into iTree. So good throughout. And then we're assuming that the tree grows. And again, these diameters are just a little bit above breast height. I think I use 54 inches. So we're assuming that a 1/4 inch growth per year throughout to the 25 years. And we're assuming that a 6.5 inch diameter at 25 years after planting. And we're assuming height increases of, I guess, about half an inch, half a foot, or whatever that is there. I guess it'd be a little more, maybe 8 inches, whatever that is there. No, it wouldn't be 8 inches. Well, whatever that is. And I'm basing these on some assumptions that I found in the literature. Again, And these can be adjusted if you guys think that these assumptions are wrong. And we can just cite a source or observations and that sort of thing as to what these growth increments should be. And again, we're assuming for all this 5 scenarios that it was near a home, built after 1980 and 30 feet in the southern direction. And for each of those steps, we're again pulling those numbers out of iTree. So again, the first year it's 5 cents, and then by the end of the 25th year, the benefits for that 25th year is $23. But when we sum that up, and as I'm clicking along here, you might notice that the formulas here. So we sum that up, and we're looking at $200. So when you calculate the ratio, which I don't know if I have in here, I thought I had it here somewhere. Yeah, I guess these are the ratios right here. When you have a ratio of over 1, then that shows that there is an overall cost. There's a benefit, an overall benefit. Basically the investments in the tree are less than the investments in the tree. The costs put into the tree are less than what the benefits you get through environmental services. So in this case, clearly, these are less than 1, and you know that there's an obvious, hasn't been beneficial. So let's go down, and that's true. That's true for the the canadensis that dies away. Well, that dies, so there's no. That's not good. Port oil annually, we don't hit that point where the benefits overtake the costs. With 2 oil treatments, it doesn't happen. Even with the soil drench, even though it's not treated, we're operating on the assumption that the soil drench is done once every 2 years. I'll show you what I mean there. So every second year, we're getting a truck to come in and spray the ground, soil drench. So every second year, because the literature says imidacloprid, you can get a couple years, treatment, efficacy. So we're assuming every second year, so it's a little less treatment, and we're assuming too that imidacloprid, because it's systemic, kills insects on contact once they stick their mouthpiece in the needle or the twig. That it dies off. So we're assuming excellent. But even with that treatment of once every second year, we still don't get that. Let's see, where's the ratio here? We still don't get that. The treatment costs being less than the environmental benefits. So there you go. Still, 0.1 or almost 0.2, and there's they're both about 0.2. So it really isn't until we get to the chinensis where we are experiencing that, kind of what we're trying to demonstrate in this paper, that plants that exhibit plant host resistance that require less treatments or no treatments of insecticide control end up being more cost effective and provide an overall cost benefit. So here again we have $30 purchase price, $30 installation, and that's it, because we don't apply anything with it, and we're assuming that the tree will be excellent because it's based on the literature. Tsuga canadensis or chinensis is resistant to hemlock woolly algae. So we're assuming it's going to grow, excellent condition. The growth rate is going to be that quarter-inch per per year, and then the height's going to be that. We're assuming again full sun, nothing's changed there. The house nearby is built after 1980, 30 feet to the south. And then we start seeing those benefits. And in the beginning, there's not much that happens, but then as we go further down, we start seeing. Let's see if I might need to move this a little bit. We start seeing where the let's see here. Do I have the ratio? Yeah. So the cost benefit ratio here. So in both cases, when we do the depreciation rate of 2% and 4%. In both of those scenarios, we see that there is an overall benefit, under those two assumptions. So that's a good sign. Now, what I also did too, you might see these graphs here, and I fiddled around with them. I don't know in the literature if this is a very common practice. I haven't seen too much on this, but I basically graphed out, and these aren't labeled right now. I set all the y-axes to 3,000 just so it's easy to compare visually when we look at the graphs. And so we have the costs, which I believe in all cases are blue, and the benefits based on an environmental or nature service, is in red. So again, I didn't even bother graphing the 5-year one because it just dies right away. But in the Eastern hemlock with one oil treatment a year, both at the 2% and 4% depreciation. It doesn't override. The benefits don't overtake at any time the costs. Again, same thing with 2 treatments a year. I see this blue little squiggly line. That's because the costs are every other year, right, with that treatment of imidacloprid. So again, we see imidacloprid and the lines are closer, right, but you still don't get that overall cost benefit ratio demonstrating that there's an overall cost benefit to those treatments from a financial perspective. And then when we get to the Eastern hemlock, the Chinese hemlock, unfortunately these graphs, and I'm not sure what to do with these because I wanted to leave the y-axis at $3,000 because compare the other graphs. However, it's really hard to see. But you see the line crossover here in the 2%, and you see the line crossover at about at the 4% of depreciation there. So what we did, or what I did here, is just so we can take a little closer look in the graph. Let's see here. Just gonna move this out of the way. You can see where and again, I don't know if break even is exactly the right term in this kind of analysis. But as we start going down, you see the benefits. We'll look at just the 2% right now. You see the costs and the benefits. When we go down again, it's going to be $60 across the board. So you're not paying a lot for this, but you're also not going to get a massive benefit either, right? So we see here in year, oh gosh, I don't know what that is, probably year 18 or so. We see it's at 59. That's where the benefits. One second here. Yeah, where the benefits is just under the 60, and then once you get to that next year, it's over 70. But the 4% depreciation takes a few years longer. That doesn't really happen until probably about year 20 or so, somewhere in that area. So again, I'm not sure if that would ultimately be in the paper, but that was just more something for me just to understand what was actually happening with these lines. So that's kind of it as far as the graph goes and the initial sort of spreadsheet goes. I think from here, if you guys are in agreement, and I'm also doing a little additional reading on making sure that this is appropriate. Cost benefit certainly is, but the graphs, I'd like to use some graphs, but again, I also know that that takes up a lot of space. It takes up a lot of space with the paper, and we're trying to keep this short as far as pages go. So there you have it. Let me know if this makes sense, and hopefully this all recorded well, because I hate to have to record this again. So look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to send me an email, both Rick and Ashley, when you get a chance. And we'll take it from there. Hopefully we get this paper out soon. It'd sure be great to. I was hoping it would be out by now, and unfortunately, I've just been so busy. I haven't been able to put the time in that I would like. So hopefully we can get this out soon, and we can all get an authorship out of it, and we'll take it from there.